It is now confirmed the Mariners will be hitting the road for this weekend's wildcard series, and they'll be doing so, unfortunately, without Sam Haggerty. We'll get you caught up on Haggerty's injury, the team's other roster moves, and more on today's episode of Locked On Mariners. Colby, hit it.
You are Locked On Mariners, your daily Seattle Mariners podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Tuesday, October 4th, 2022 is the date. This is Ty Gonzalez and Colby Patnode for the Locked On Mariners podcast. Thank you so much for making us your first listen. Subscribe, like, and turn on alerts if you're watching on YouTube, or subscribe and leave a 5-star review on your preferred podcast platform if you like what you hear. And if you want to hear from us even more, please consider signing up for our Patreon. The link, as well as our social accounts, is in the description below. And on the show today, how much of an impact does Sam Haggerty's injury have on the Mariners? We'll be talking about that, plus some of the other roster moves the team made today. And I'm going to tell you why we need to stop worrying about who Seattle plays in the postseason. Let's just stop it. I'll tell you why coming up here a little bit later. But Colby, let's start with Sam Haggerty, who in the bottom of the ninth last night, Mariners down 4-3. He gets on base with a broken bat single up the middle, and immediately tries to steal second and does successfully. However, he came up writhing in pain and unfortunately had to be helped off of the field. Turns out now he has a groin strain that has landed him on the 10-day injured list. So it's very possible we've seen Sam Haggerty play his last game in 2022. That's very unfortunate. So what's your just kind of your overall reaction to the injury, and how much does this impact the Mariners moving forward?
Yeah, it's a bummer. We're not going to see him again. Word is they're trying to find out if he has to have the surgery, which you have to have the surgery. It's a serious groin pull. We saw how painful it was. Couldn't even get off the field. It's a bummer, especially since it comes on what is largely a meaningless game. The decision to steal, it's easy to second guess because he got hurt, but there were some legitimate questions about why risk it. Particularly with Santana up there, who's pretty much going to hit a home run, or he's going to walk, or he's going to make an out. Like he's probably not going to get a base hit. That's not what Santana does. So yeah, just kind of a weird way to end last night. And what was a game where the Mariners came out and basically for most of the game looked like they were mad that they had to play. It was another pretty poor effort, particularly from the offense. And that was just kind of the capper of it all. Good news is Julio's back, but Haggerty, probably being out for the rest of the year, that's a big blow. That's your best base stealer. It's kind of the one guy that you're not afraid to steal bases. With Julio, it's different. You don't really want to push Julio right now, and in the playoffs, maybe all bets are off, but I kind of doubt it. So I don't think Julio's going to steal many bags. Dylan Moore, when he gets on base, can steal bags, but again, when he gets on base. So other than that, that's it. So what the Mariners lose is they lose speed element and their best base stealer right before the playoffs start. They lose some versatility. A guy who can play, all around the outfield, even, play some second base if you need him to. And they lose a switch hitter off the bench who, had been in a pretty rough slump for the last month or so, but still contact guy, can make things happen, handles the bat okay, guy who can bunt, hit and run, just kind of a nice, useful player to have off the bench. So, the Mariners lost a valuable player to their roster, and it opens up a spot that will be filled by a player who is frankly just not as good. So it is a blow.
Yeah, it is a blow. It certainly is. There's no denying that, and also just the energy that Haggerty brings, what he brings to the clubhouse and the dugout, just how much they love Sam Haggerty and kind of rally around him as well. So from an energy standpoint, from a on-field production standpoint, all of it sucks. There's no way around that. That said, I saw some folks on Twitter last night when the injury happened, and even today, going, well, the Mariners are screwed now. Okay, if your playoff hopes were hanging in the balance of Sam Haggerty's availability, you didn't have any hopes to begin with. The other thing too is like, I see, well, oh God, now Jesse Winker has to play in the outfield. No, he doesn't. Jared Kelenic is that guy still. Oh, well, Jared Kelenick's 2 for his last 24. Look, you're not going to get offensive production out of all nine of your spots in a wild card game. It's just not going to happen. So you deal with it. You get really good defense out of Kelenic for sure. That's guaranteed. And you just roll with that. So, look, this sucks. The Mariners lose some versatility, but this doesn't really change my opinion on how deep or not the Mariners can go into the postseason. It doesn't affect that at all. It would be nice to have Haggerty, of course. It would be nice to have that element, to have that weapon at your disposal. But, those opportunities that you would get also were going to be so few and far between for the most part that I think you can survive not having that as well. So, yeah. I don't think it's that, like, at the end of the day, in terms of just their playoff aspirations as far as they want to go, doesn't impact that really in any sort of way,
right.
at least in a
You
significant way.
You lost a bonus, a really nice bonus. And it's an important bonus because this is a team that is going to, if they're going to win, they are going to have to probably win a bunch of one-run games. And, pinch running late, getting that big money bag at the end of the game, that can make the difference. But it's at the end of the day, if Kelenic steps up and plays well, then it doesn't really matter if Dylan Moore stays healthy, if Julio can run a little bit. It doesn't matter as much as some people are making it out to be. And I also kind of find it weird that, there's a lot of people who are, freaking out about Kelenic, and Kelenic had the best at-bats on the team last night from a guy not named Julio. So Kelenic looks fine at the plate. He's also facing a lot more lefties now. And in the playoffs, it's probably not going to happen. It's probably going to be Dylan Moore out there in left field against lefties. So we'll see how it goes. He's playing a lot of center field as well. He has to be in the lineup every day because they're not putting Julio out there quite yet. So yeah, it's definitely, it's a bummer. It really is. But you have to. There's nothing you can do about it. You didn't add that offensive player at the deadline. You didn't really add much athleticism throughout the year, and that's just kind of how you have to play now. You have to adapt, and right now it's Toro. We'll see if he's the guy who replaces Haggerty on the playoff roster, or maybe it's Taylor Trammell who's in the clubhouse today. There's some speculation that there's another move coming. I kind of wonder if maybe this is just in anticipation of of adding him to the playoff roster, and so he's just there to be with the team for a couple days before they head off. We'll see what happens, but it's a bummer, like I said. But it's not season over, or like stop acting like this is Julio again. Like, it's not. And Haggerty was terrible at the plate for the last 70 at bats or so. So
that's another thing. Yeah. He's been pretty rough at the plate. So you're not losing a ton of offensive production, at least in terms of what's been going on lately.
Pretty much hoping he was a slightly better Terrence Gore for you. It's more or less what it was.
Yeah.
So
we'll
see.
Again, not trying to be disrespectful to Sam Haggerty or anything like that here, but it's just the Mariners are still fine. The Mariners can still do everything that they are setting out to do and all that with or without Sam Haggerty. It's just, it'd be nice to have him. So it does suck. But anyway, so as you were talking about, the Mariners have made a few roster moves today, and there's a couple other guys in the clubhouse right now that haven't been added. We'll be going over all of that in just a moment. But real quick, a reminder, this episode of Locked On Mariners is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline.net is your number one source for football betting info this season. Find all of the latest player developments, team matchups, news, podcasts, and in-depth articles and analysis on every game you can find. And as always, BetOnline remains your continued source for all your sport wagering information with live betting and up-to-the-minute scores for every sport out there. It is the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorite game and events, including MLB, MMA, boxing, and golf. Head to betonline.net or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. BetOnline is where the game starts. You're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast. Thank you so much for making us your first listen, just like you do here every single day. Greatly appreciate your support. Now, Colby, the Mariners have made a few roster moves today. Of course, Sam Haggerty going on the injured list. Abraham Toro has been brought back up. He was sent down a couple days ago but he is back up because of the because of the injury. He's eligible to be reinstated on the Major League roster, so he's back. The Mariners have also made Justice Sheffield their 29th man for the day, so presumably he will be starting Game 2 of today's doubleheader. Chris Flexen, of course, getting the start in Game 1. Taylor Trammell, as you alluded to earlier, and then Brennan Bernardino, the lefty reliever who we saw in Houston, are also in the clubhouse right now, but they have not been added to the roster. Not really sure what that might be about. Any sort of theories as to why Bernardino might be there?
No. Matt Boyd did go 3 innings last night, so maybe he's there in case. You hope Matt Boyd isn't all of a sudden hurt or anything like that. He was one of the few bright spots last night. The Mariners have kind of looks kind of like the Mariners are not trying, let's say. Not trying, at least in this first game. No Julio in there. That's fine. They said he was only going to play one game anyways today, and that's what you want. But, Adam Frazier in left field against a lefty so that Abraham Toro could play second. No Dylan Moore. You're starting Kirk Casale over Luis Torrens. Like,
hold on. Are you pounding the table for Dylan Moore today?
Against a lefty over Adam Frazier and Abraham Toro?
You heard it here, folks. He's pounding the table for Dylan Moore. It doesn't matter if it's against a lefty or anything. We're ignoring that part. The fact is you are pounding the table for Dylan Moore. Let the record show.
I mean, I was on the Dylan Moore bandwagon before any of you guys were, so I don't know what your surprise is about. Check the receipts from 2020. I got them.
Mm-hmm. As I said to you off air, then what happened, Colby? Then what happened?
2020, 2021, I was a huge Dylan Moore guy. I was there before everybody else. So that's all you need to know. No, it's not a good lineup today. In a game that, I mean, you don't need it, but it does feel like today's lineup is kind of like let's see what Tampa does in their game today. Let's just see. See if that number 6 is possible. It's so weird to see what they did today, but it is what it is. Bernardino can only be up for a pitcher. That's the thing, is it can't be for anybody else. And Trammell, I would assume, is going to be up in case Winker needs to hit the IL, who, has missed the last couple of days with a neck thing. So yeah, I mean, I don't know what Bernardino's doing up, because there's nobody that you would put, unless somebody's hurt, there's nobody that you would send down for him. Like, you're not DFAing Matt Boyd, right, for Bernardino. You're just not using him for the next 3 days. Like, okay, you don't need that extra arm, and Sheffield is the guy for the doubleheader. So I don't know. I don't know. It sounds like you said Sheffield's going to start. Game 2, the Mariners bullpen has to cover a lot of innings today because Chris Flexen is not stretched out. He's probably only going to be able to go 50, 65 pitches, something in that range. They had to cover 5 innings last night. Obviously they have to cover at least more innings in the second game. And then we don't know who's starting tomorrow. It should be Marco, but if Marco is hurt, maybe that's it. Maybe Marco has to go on the IL, and you can do it now because you can retroactively do it, and you weren't going to use him in the first series anyway. So now you can bring up Bernardino, and Bernardino can be an extra arm in the bullpen, and be a bolt guy tomorrow. Maybe that's the plan. So a lot up in the air right now. We don't really know what's happening. The Mariners have not yet told us. All we know is that Bernardino and Trammell are in the clubhouse. Haggerty is down. Toro is up officially. And then my guess is that Winker, they think Winker might need to go on the IL, which Trammell is the answer there. And then maybe, just maybe, it's Marco is going to be put on the IL for like neck strain or blisters or whatever, right? And it's more like, look, Marco, you're not going to pitch in the first series anyways. We can retroactive you back to 4 days ago. And you'll be back in time for the ALDS. And we just need the extra bullpen arm for the next few days. It's my guess.
Mm-hmm.
It's a total guess. I don't know if that's how they're going to play it, but that one would seem to make sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that really is the only thing that makes sense to me. I don't have any additional theories on top of that as to why Brennan Bernardino is there. So we'll see. I mean, if he has to be added to the roster, it's probably not good news necessarily. But I think the one that you could probably live with the most is Marco, right? Because again, for what you said, like, you're not going to use him in the wild card series, and would you even use him in the division series? I feel like
probably not, but
yeah, I feel like if he were to get an opportunity at all, it would have to be a best of 7 series.
Well, but you're going to carry him in a best of 5 just because you're going to use 4 starters in theory, and so you want that extra guy in the pen. Maybe. I don't know how it works option wise. Maybe Flexen has an option and they're just going to option him down and call it Bernardino. Maybe that's the way after game 1. That's also a possibility. Chris in theory should have options. But because he signed a major league contract as an international free agent, sometimes there's an agreement put in place that's not, they don't have options, or they don't go through arbitration or whatever. So
Fangraphs says no on that, but who knows? Fangraphs doesn't always have the best information on contracts anyway, so don't know.
Yeah, but anybody you send down, I think, I could be wrong here. Maybe it's, hey, we can send down Matt Brash and just recall him in 3 days. You know what I mean? Like, because it's the playoffs, maybe there's an exemption. Following the Mariners for the last 22 years hasn't given me a wealth of knowledge on playoff roster rules. So not sure about that. That doesn't seem like that would be okay, but we'll see. Bernardino's kind of the weird one to me. And then, but I mean, again, if they don't add him, it's not, maybe that's just their travel squad, because you're allowed to bring like a taxi squad with you in the playoffs. So maybe those are the 2 guys they're bringing, and they're like, yeah, well, just have them up now.
Yeah.
That's also a possibility.
So speaking of the playoffs, I'm seeing this thing now, and I mean, like, you are even kind of talking about it there, where it's like, maybe the Mariners are trying to see what's going on with the 6th seed. There's this narrative going around that the Mariners don't want to play the Blue Jays. I've been told, when I said I want Toronto, no, you don't. You don't want that. And of course, Toronto's playing some pretty good baseball right now. Not denying that, but so is Cleveland. And let's be honest about it, folks. This is the postseason. Every team is good. Every team is going to pose a challenge. You can lose to any team in this field. Doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. You just got to play good baseball. I'm not concerned at all about who the Mariners play in the postseason. I really am not. I don't care who they play, because it's all going to be difficult. And you shouldn't care either if you're a Mariners fan. We need to stop worrying about what's the easiest path for the Mariners, what's the hardest path for the Mariners. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. And we need to not look down the road either here, talking about like whether or not, you want to play the Yankees or the Astros in the ALDS. Take care of business in the wild card series first. How about that? Let's worry about that series first, because the next series is not guaranteed. So whether you play Cleveland or Toronto, it presents a massive challenge. And both of those teams are on a heater right now. There isn't one weaker opponent or the other, really. And look, you play Cleveland, on paper, does Cleveland look like a better matchup for you? Just in general, just stacking roster against roster? Offensively, yes. Like, Cleveland doesn't have Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Teoscar Hernandez, Bo Bichette, etc. But what they do have is Shane Bieber and Tristan McKenzie. So, again, I'm going to say the thing that I always say on here. Can't win games 0 to -1. So the pitching matchups, they're brutal. No matter what. You're going to have to face Kevin Gossman, or you're going to have to face Shane Bieber. You're going to have to face Alek Manoah. or Tristan McKenzie. Like you're gonna have like pick your poison there, folks. It doesn't really matter at the end of the day who the Mariners play or they don't play, because it's all going to be tough. It's all going to be a gauntlet.
Yeah, there's no such thing as an easy road in the playoffs. And I think one thing that people maybe aren't considering right now is playing indoors versus playing in Cleveland in October. Like, you get the controlled environment of the Sky Dome. Is that still what it's called? The Rogers Center. Yeah, the Rogers Center.
Everyone here though calls it the Sky Dome. People, it's like calling Climate Pledge Arena the Key still, or like calling Timo like Safeco. It's like that. No one refers to it here by Rogers Center.
Yeah, I still call Lumen Field CenturyLink like 95% of the time. So
yeah.
But whatever, either way, like you get that climate control, or you go to Cleveland. I haven't checked Cleveland's weather, but it's a little unpredictable. I'd rather be indoors if I have to go one place or the other. And yeah, Toronto's playing good ball right now. Cleveland's been the best team in the American League for about a month. So who knows? The pitching matchups, they're not, that favorable one way or the other, just in terms of would you rather face Bieber, McKenzie, Quantrill, or Manoah, Gossman, Barrios? Yeah. Sounds like a toss-up to me. And so it's just one of those things where there is no correct answer here. It's always going to be hard. It doesn't matter if you go to, New York or the Astros, you're going to be underdogs in that series, heavy underdogs. It doesn't matter what you're going to do. Both of those teams have had a bye. They're going to be able to throw Justin Verlander or Garrett Cole, and you're going to have to throw, Logan Gilbert or George Kirby or Marco Gonzalez. Like, they're going to have the advantage right away. There is no easy road to the playoffs. Now I'm looking at the weather in Cleveland right now, 55, 53, 59. Wouldn't you rather play in 72?
Yeah,
I probably would. So yeah, there's no easy path. The easiest path isn't available to you anymore. You blew it against your 20 games of bad teams. You blew it. That's what you lost when you've won like what? Of these, you played 17 of these games, and I think you're 6-11, 7-10, something like that. You blew it. All right. You didn't get your home playoff games. That's on you. That's on you. You didn't play well enough. You didn't earn them. Even that road would have been tough because you're still having Toronto come here. You're still having, I guess, or Tampa, but probably Toronto coming here, and then you're still going off to play the Astros either way. So yeah, it's unfortunate. Things didn't work out exactly the way you wanted it to, but that again, that's on you. You didn't play well enough to earn that right. So now it doesn't matter who you play. You have to play well. You have to pitch well. You have to get the timely hits. You have to, play smart defense. You have to do all the things that you've done for a majority of the year. I would say for about 80% of the year. You have to do all of those things well. And if you do those, you have a shot. If you don't, you're going to lose to anybody. The Mariners are good enough to beat anybody in this field. They are good enough to get swept, or they are bad enough to get swept by anybody in this field. It all comes down to who they play, or it all comes down to how they play, not who they play. And I don't see Cleveland or Toronto as being a big disadvantage one way or the other. I think they're just two really solid teams. They do it differently.
Yeah.
Toronto's power, Cleveland's contact, but the pitching's very similar. The bullpens are pretty similar. And I guess
the thing too is like, the Mariners are also good, folks. Like, let's not act like they're not good, like they don't deserve to be here or anything like that. They are also good. Like, Toronto should be scared of the Mariners because the Mariners pose some unique challenges. Cleveland should be scared of the Mariners because the Mariners pose unique challenges. The Yankees, the Astros, etc. Because the Mariners are also good at baseball. And it's just as simple as that, right? Every team in this postseason field is really good. Really good. And obviously there's varying levels of that, but any of these teams can beat any of these teams on a given day. Doesn't matter. So you just got to go out and you got to play your baseball, and that's it, right? And so, and look, like the Mariners obviously have glaring flaws on their roster, but so do the Blue Jays. Blue Jays, like, their bullpen has been better since the trade deadline. Still not very good, though. Like, Cleveland doesn't have a killer offense. Like, look, these teams also have issues. They have things that could derail their entire postseason, just like you do. It all comes down to who has the most going for them over the next few weeks. That's all it comes down to. Who has the most going right?
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're the Mariners, like, you got to play good defense. You got to be, you're a run prevention team. You're a pitching and run prevention team. So you got to be excellent at that. And if you're not, you're going to lose. Yep. But it doesn't matter who you're playing against. It really doesn't. And yeah, no. Blue Jays have an offensive juggernaut. Mariners have one of the best pitching staffs in baseball.
Mm-hmm.
So something's got to give there, right? And it doesn't automatically mean, and I know that we're all, the whole same old Mariners thing, blah, 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 blah. It's the Mariners. So of course, like, the thing that's going to give is their pitching. No, it's not. Like, that's not guaranteed, folks. It's not guaranteed. And so,
everybody in the playoffs is good.
And also, by the way, the way that the Mariners constructed their roster this year is built to beat teams like the Toronto Blue Jays.
Mm-hmm. I think it's important to remember everybody in the playoffs is good, but on Friday, everybody has the same record.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's 0. The Astros 103 wins means literally nothing starting Friday. If the Astros don't play well, they will be bounced in the DS. The team that's going to win the American League and go to the World Series is simply the team that plays the best. That's lazy, that's cliche, but it's the truth. If the Mariners play the best baseball of anybody in the American League over the next 3 weeks, they're going to the World Series. Fact. That's the way this game works, and that's the beauty of baseball. Throughout the year, there's a lot of weird things that kind of have to go your way. Maybe sometimes they don't. But at the end of the day, when you get into the playoffs and you're 12 wins away from the World Series, if you play better baseball than everybody else, than the other 12 teams, not the other 30 teams, 29 teams. If you play better baseball than the other 11 teams for 1 month, you win a World Series. Ask the Atlanta Braves, ask the Washington Nationals, ask the Cardinals, who got in as an 84 team. Right. And like, anything can happen. The Dodgers have been the best team in baseball for like 6 years running now. They won 1 World Series. It was in 2020, the 60-game season. It doesn't mean anything in the playoffs, guys. You just have to play well.
It's usually never the best team that wins. And look, the Mariners aren't the best team that's entering the field. But at times this season, record-wise, they've been the best team in baseball at times. Like, they can get on a heater. They can get on a roll here. And look, as much as we joke about it, they're only going to be playing good teams from here on out, so they should be fine. So, yeah. All right. Well, that's going to do it for our show. Unless you have anything else to add, Colby. You good?
Nope.
All right. Let's get on out of here then. Thank you so much for joining us here on...
Real fast. Just coming down the wire from Divish. Marco is going to start on Wednesday. So
okay,
there's one Bernardino possibility down.
Okay. Crossing our fingers for Matthew Boyd then. Not that he's the one that's hurt. Crossing my fingers that he's not hurt.
Wow. Ty hates the local boy. Shed his tears celebrating along with you, and Ty's like, God, I hope he's hurt. For shame.
My wording could have been better there. It could have. I'll admit that's on me. I mean, I could point the finger at you for poking the bear, stoking the flames here, but my wording should have been better there. Anyway, crossing our fingers here that it's not Matthew Boyd, that it's not any injury on the Seattle Mariners. There. Now, with that said and clarified, thank you so much for joining us here on Locked On Mariners. For Colby Patnode, I'm Ty Dane Gonzalez. Be sure to give us a follow on Twitter at LO_Mariners. You can follow me at Dane Gonzalez. That's DaneGNZLZ, and Colby at CPAT11. That's CPAT11. You can also find all that stuff in the description of this episode. And thank you again for making us your first listen. Oh yeah, I want to mention real quick, we are going to be recording with Jason A. Churchill of the Baseball Things podcast here in a little bit. We're going to be making an appearance on the Baseball Things podcast, so be sure to check that out if you're a subscriber of Baseball Things, or check out Jason's Patreon, patreon.com/baseball things, I believe it is. All right, now make your second listen of the day the Locked On MLB podcast. MLB expert Paul Francis Sullivan brings humor, passion, and unique perspective on every team and the biggest stories around the league. Follow the #1 daily league-wide podcast, Locked On MLB, on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts, just like us. And with that, have yourself a beautiful baseball day. We'll see you tomorrow. Peace.